Welcome to CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast. Well, I almost said on the CRM Audio Network, but it's just the podcast now. So I'm Shawn Tabor, and we are coming to you live from, live on tape, from Microsoft Ignite. And with me, I have my co-host, Mr. Joel Lindstrom. How you doing, Joel?
I'm doing great, Shawn. Glad to be here at Ignite with you. This is exciting. Our second year in the fantastic Ignite podcast booth. You may be able to hear some of the excitement going on around us. We're basically in a small broom closet with windows.
But it's magical nonetheless.
Exactly.
That's right.
It's like magical.
Also, my co-host from our time as at your service, Miss Sarah Jelinek. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm fabulous. It's completely understandable that Joel could not see me as he is much taller than I am, and I'm hiding behind a laptop here. So understandable that you guys would forget to introduce me.
Well, he and our guest are sitting on the opposite side of the table from us, and I could see how they could completely see over our heads and past us.
Absolutely.
Let's just say it's good we're not in a canoe and sitting on the same side of the boat.
This is true. We would be in the water right now. So, and this is, since we are at Ignite, last year when we were at Ignite, when we had our At Your Service podcast, we had a special guest, Mr. Ben Vollmer, and he's back with us second year in a row. This is now a tradition.
Is that good or bad?
Depends on your calendar. So if it's not working in your schedule, then it's terrible.
I'm here. It's Ignite. It's awesome.
There you go.
Super excited to have him here.
And, you know, we talked last year. We had a really lengthy discussion about AI.
Mm-hmm.
And machine learning, and at the time there was not a lot of real capability available. There was a lot of things being discussed and talked about.
Right.
But in that year that has transpired, to me it's been like an explosion of functionality and capability, and a lot of stuff announced here at Ignite today as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But before we do that, I wanted to thank everybody for listening to our podcast. And as I mentioned, we are recording it at Microsoft Ignite. And Microsoft is actually giving away Microsoft Surface earbuds to our listeners. So if you're a CRM Audio listener, you have a chance to win a pair of Microsoft Surface earbuds. These are brand new, Sarah.
I know. I see the big headphones,
right.
and I like, oh, those are awesome, but
right.
I like smaller things.
Right, smaller's better.
I'm short.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I have enough to carry with my head.
That's
and
right.
as opposed to your Apple AirPods, they actually sound good, and the battery lasts a long time.
Look at Joel chiming in with the review. That's nice.
Yeah.
No, they do.
Well, good. Well, and to enter, we're going to put this link in the show notes, but to enter, visit ak.ms/podcast sweepstakes.
Capital P, capital S.
Yep, and again, we'll put the link in the show notes because that URL is case insensitive.
So the capital P and the capital S didn't matter, but I wanted to say that because it looks so pretty on this document that they gave us.
I like Sarah, who's very sensitive.
She is. And let's make sure that you enter the sweepstakes before December 15th, 2019 to get a chance to win those earbuds. So that's exciting. So we started off on a great note. We're giving stuff away.
Yes.
Things can't be better. Yeah.
It can be, though.
Oh, well, okay.
Because, we've got a great group here.
Yes,
and I remember when you talked about this, when we talked about AI last year, I asked the question of the group, and we had quite a few experts at the table with us. I said, so where do you get started? I don't think I quite got a clear answer because, as you mentioned, there wasn't really where do we start. And now it's like where in Dynamics 365 or in the Power Platform is there no AI?
Right.
It seems like there's the capability for us to use it in a lot of different places.
Yeah. When we had our podcast last year at Ignite, they just announced Sales Insights and Customer Service Insights was in preview, I believe, and Customer Insights was in preview, I think.
Yes, that's
right. They had the sales AI and Customer Service AI were in preview then.
Right. So now those are in GA. They're out.
Yeah, one thing that surprises people is you don't actually, for a lot of these things like Customer Insights and other things, like the Power Virtual Agent, you don't actually have to have other dynamic stuff. Mm-hmm. You could use whatever platform you want and still leverage these tools for AI and making your data better.
So from a Microsoft perspective, when you hear that you don't have to have Dynamics, what was your initial thought, Ben, when that was is that automatically assumed that that's a good thing, or was there inherent questions in why we're making that decision?
I think it probably depends on where in the organization you are.
Right.
For me personally, I think it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Right.
Let's face it, we're not the only business application vendor on the planet. I think our technology stack we've developed and so the stuff we have is world class. And so when you look at what we can do with a virtual agent or with customer insights, that's awesome. And so who cares if they're running Salesforce or Oracle or SAP?
Right.
They still need that same technology, and most of those other vendors don't have it or can't provide it at the same level we do, or it's $1.5 billion. So I think it's the same way with Power Platform. And Power Platform's gone out of its way to distance itself from Dynamics, which I think is a good thing because it allows it to expand into places that Dynamics can, would, and shouldn't be into.
Right. And to me, it's all about the way that the strategy has been unfolding. To me, is it's reducing barriers to entry for a lot of folks. It's not necessarily. I mean, you can a small business as well as a enterprise customer could buy the same thing and use them for two totally different purposes. And the reduction of the barriers to entry is really astounding in the last year alone.
The thing that surprised me is talking to some people in our organization, others who aren't from a Dynamics background, but are maybe from an Azure, work with Azure or other things. The tendency with them can sometimes be to say, "Oh, I could build that. I can use cognitive services and I can use AI vision and all that," and they probably can, but the bajillion dollars, like Ben talked about. But I'm seeing them start to warm up to it.
Right.
Where, like customer insights, for example, what light went on in my head that this is kind of like the entry step into MDM. It's not an MDM system, but it starts you thinking about your data bigger than individual systems. And then that can lead to, it can give you improvements, but then can help you sell doing bigger data projects too.
It's giving you correlation of data in a way that you wouldn't have thought of by yourself.
Right.
Right. Because when you go to a customer and say, "Oh, you're talking about MDM," you get deer in the headlights most times. And then after you explain what the acronym means, it's like, well, that seems very expensive, and I don't know if we want to necessarily undertake that right now. Or the barrier is time or resources, or whereas these products that we're starting to see with the Insights products, they're basically, consuming the data that already exists and modeling it for you. So that the reduction in work that resources have to do to make sure that data is meaningful, significantly less than what it used to be.
Yeah. And since Ben says I'm very sensitive, I'm going to be sensitive to our listeners. Could you guys explain MDM, what the acronym is?
Microsoft Dynamics Marketing.
Hang on a second. I want to just kind of go back to this. Master data management, which is what they're talking about.
Thank you.
Isn't actually what Customer Insights is there for. And so while MDM is a strategy a lot of people go forth and look down, we should make sure we don't get stuck into acronym soup. Right?
Sure.
We're famous for that at Microsoft.
Hence me wanting you to explain MDM.
That's why you're here.
So what it actually is, it's a CDP. It's a customer data platform.
Okay.
And so which is different from MDM, because MDM is generally a very controlled, it's a hierarchical, well thought out relationship organization where you say this is exactly what things are going to look like. Whereas a customer data platform, it's taking all these touch points, and it's really a much more informal data model than an MDM, which is very, very formal and very, very governed. A customer data platform is by its very nature not very governed.
Yeah, so one of those light bulb moments for me as well came with actually the other MDMs, Microsoft Dynamics core marketing, now Microsoft Dynamics marketing, not to be confused with the old Microsoft Dynamics marketing. But anyway, so the idea would be you talk to somebody who's used to using out-of-the-box marketing capability, and they're doing marketing lists. You say, well, imagine if you could do your marketing list, but also filter that list or segment off of another system's data. Like the point of sale system, or imagine like field service scenarios, since you all speak field service and I don't. Other types of systems involved where you got customer data that you can then build these segments and really report on that, your data wherever it is. That's really where the power of that. And so you're not scrubbing your data and cleansing it, but you're joining to all these different systems and making intelligent stuff. So what about the product visualized stuff? Because that's something that's been in preview, and that was something that was shown during the keynote today. The example of solar panels. So what are the scenarios, Ben, for product visualized? Where do you think that's going to be a big value?
I think product visualize is one that where. So my dad's an architect, and I grew up with him building buildings, and he would talk to somebody and go, hey, the room is 10 by 10. They're like, oh, it's perfect. And then he'd build it like, oh, this is way too small. This is way too big. And so most humans suck at understanding how things actually are there. And so product visualize allows you to be able to very quickly drop in a product, have somebody look at it in a very user-friendly manner, which they couldn't do today. And I think the difference is those kind of products, like my Amazon app has a product kind of similar to product visualize already built into it today. I can look at a piece of furniture from Amazon in my house, but I don't have $1 billion to deploy that. I don't have $500 million to deploy that. So product visualize to me helps somebody who wants to get up and running quickly, easily, with very little work being done that you couldn't do before.
Yeah. So the example of the solar panels would be visualizing it installed on your house or something, see what it would look like.
Well, and I just had an excruciating appointment for a window estimate, and what product visualize made me think of was that painful 2 hours that I spent getting an estimate on windows, because this guy brought in by hand these large window samples. And he did the whole, here, no, step on it, it won't break. And my wife, of course, made a joke about me stepping on it, but it didn't break. But the point is, the amount of time it took for him to lug that stuff in, get it out, open it up, knock on it. All of that time, if you had something like product visualize, it could say, pop open a window and say, this is how it's built. These are the 3 layers. This is the insulation behind it. I would have been much happier, and I would have been just as knowledgeable about the product.
And here's AI Shawn. He's standing on the window.
That's right. Look at him. He's jumping on it. So that I can definitely see some benefit there. But there's a thread now throughout all of our platform of AI, whether it's AI Builder and Power Platform, Power Virtual Agent. There's AI now in, now I'm losing it. That was announced today. A lot of the stuff has AI already built into it.
Well, so you gotta kind of think about it for a minute. So you got because the way you use the AI now is different was a year ago. So you have like Azure Cognitive Services. That's if you want to go out and deploy a bot today, you're going to use the Azure Bot Service or the Cognitive Services as kind of your frame. Now, you do realize that the stat I hear internally is that under 5% of all bots people trial actually go into production. So there's a high bar of skill you have to have from a developer to get that done.
Right.
And so then you look at things like Virtual Agent, which has then it's kind of the next step up, which then allows you to kind of use Flow and everything else. And then you're seeing the first party app teams build functionality on top of that. That's unique in particular to their use case. So for field service, it might be a technician talking to a call center.
Right.
In customer service, it might be a customer talking to the agent. So you're kind of seeing, if you will, a hierarchy of, you still have the bot service at the bottom that Azure runs. Then you have the platform layer, which you can do a lot of cool stuff with if you want to, but you got to build it from scratch. And then a finished product layer, which is that's unique for the use case you're looking at.
Yeah.
And they showed an example during the keynote of, what was it, True Green?
Yeah.
Showing, that they actually, I believe that was their production website. When you go and chat with them, you're using Virtual Agent, and they're behind the scenes using Flow and using Power Apps, and pretty impressive scenario there, tied into their knowledge base and everything. So, that's good. So, I guess my question comes to with Virtual Agent, the visual designer is super easy to use. What kind of resources is Microsoft giving people to? You still have to know like how to build the conversation thread and what kind of things you should be asking and shouldn't be asking. That's where I'm wondering, what Shawn, you've used it. You've at least done some demos. I think you have one project where I think you're using it. How are you determining what you should have your virtual agent say?
So, with if you use it in conjunction with customer service insights, it will generate topics based on your caseload. So, what are the issues coming in, and it'll build those topics for you
based on actual case history.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So once you have the topic, then you're able to define from a business process internally, what is that interaction that you want to have? What are you trying to achieve? So if one of your topics is an issue that you're having a low CSAT in, and you have a number of a large number of calls coming in about it, but it could be easily remedied if you only had these 3 or 4 bits of information. You can easily model that in a Power Automate kind of UI, to where you go through the user says, bot says, user says, bot says. You can invoke actions to call out to Flow or Power Automate, to bring in data from other systems. And now, with it being part of the Power Platform, they're going to start releasing new deployment models frequently. So you're going to start seeing the ability to deploy a Power Virtual Agent to Teams or to a Facebook page, or any number of different deployment options, which is really handy. And what I'm hoping and I'm assuming would be Dynamics 365, obviously, because if that's the case, then that makes it super, super simple to deploy. Although right now, you can deploy a Power Virtual Agent very easily within an iframe to D365.
So you're talking about users within Dynamics using the...
Yeah. And it's very easy to deploy to a Power Portal as well now.
Yeah, well, I mean, can you embed it within the Canvas app?
I haven't found how you can do that yet, no. I was able to do it within Field Service Mobile.
It's just like a link, right? A URL that you embed within your website or your portal, right? So
if you use the code that's auto-generated within the deploy, it basically gives you the code to create an iframe and put it in an iframe. If you do it within Dynamics 365 form, you just create the iframe and you only take a certain piece of the code that's given you in the deploy option. To put it in an iframe, and you could do the same thing with an iframe in Field Service Mobile or the mobile app itself.
Okay.
So easy peasy stuff, but that whole democratization of making it easy to do, to me, I mean, it's really crazy because there's so much now that you could really specialize just in all the AI capabilities that are available now. Just within the Dynamics platform.
Well, I think that's to me, the meta point here is our consulting partners, our partners in general, are used to doing everything. I mean, if you look at Dynamics over the years, Sarah, you worked on customer service projects, sales projects, XRM we didn't really care what the theory was. The day of specialization is upon us. I think I've been preaching this for probably a year, maybe 2 years, but things like this AI, not every functional consultant can or should build these models. This is the day of specialization is upon us, and this is further proof you've got to specialize. You just can't be all things to all people.
Right. Because you won't do them well. There's not enough time in the day to know everything well enough to do it well. So I mean, that's for consultants that are starting to come up, I say the same things. People on my team, I instruct them that it's time to pick a specialization. They don't like it necessarily, but it makes a lot of sense, and it's by doing that, you're able to collaborate better, I think, with your client, because you're able to focus in on the key issues and requirements that are there, as opposed to talking in generalities and not really hitting the mark, right?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, one thing that's been a little bit of a challenge for some customers with some of the AI features, this doesn't really apply to Virtual Agent, but this definitely applies to Sales Insight, or Sales AI, Customer Service AI, or Insight, or whatever we're calling it now. You got to have data to get the value from it. So like the predictive lead scoring or opportunity scoring, you have to have 600 one opportunities, 600 lost opportunities to build the model. And that's kind of a challenge sometimes for customers when they're starting new.
Right.
If you're starting with something, you got a history, product recommendations, for example. You can't make a next best product recommendation model if you don't have data from your sales history, or have a level of customer data. I think customer insights is one that you can get value from the beginning, because as long as you've got some customer data and you've got data in other systems, it's a way, I think, to accelerate your value from it. Probably Virtual Agent you could use from the beginning, but some of them I think do need to have a baseline of data before you can. Anything that makes insights about your data needs to have data.
Absolutely. When you talked about the Keynote, Satya brought up actually a statistic that stuck in my head when he talked about when you're using an enterprise application, or even a small business using a Dynamics 365. He gave a statistic that 27% of your data is basically you've analyzed it, you're reporting on it. That means, got to do math here, 73% of your data has not been looked at or analyzed in any way.
Right.
And Insights are giving us that capability. So you talk about your predictive lead scoring, your opportunities, and having that base. Great, we're going to put that in there, but you're right. Insights, I think, is a great starting point for people.
One of my favorite stories by Sarah was one of the IoT partners I work with did some work with a consumer packaged good company, figuring out why their new coffee maker wasn't selling as well as it did. And it turns out they actually IoT enabled their older version, and they started looking at the data coming off their older version, and it turns out the 12-ounce cup is actually what most customers picked. And they went with a 8-ounce cup or a 16-ounce cup. So the new version. So when you think about product insights for me, or the insights, it's sometimes the insights you need are not the ones that you think. Like you think somebody sat down and made some really well-determined decisions, 8 ounces or 16 ounces, and it turns out that most people drink a 12-ounce cup of coffee.
Go figure.
Wow.
That's insights in action right there.
So which of the announcements, Ben, do you think has the biggest impact on field service? I mean, I can see a lot of field service scenarios have legacy systems, and the RPA processes within. Basically, I think for Power Automate, it's saying, okay, for Flow, we got these 300 connectors. This then allows us to connect to anything else almost, And so do you think that's going to have a big impact on field service scenarios?
I actually think the AI builder actually has a bigger impact than RPA, because
object recognition.
Object recognition. The amount of times technicians are dispatched to a job site and have no idea what tech they're actually looking at is massive. Or I mean, you're gonna laugh here. The last jet you stepped foot on. I mean, have you rode on an MD-80 recently?
No.
Well, thank God I have. But I think they were a World War II vintage plane, weren't they? No, I mean, but MD-80 chases its roots back to the 40s, and heck, even the 737 chases its roots back to the 60s. So we get these airplanes and we just assume they're kind of new because the seats are new. But the truth of the matter is, these planes are older than Shawn, which is quite old, I might add.
Nice.
But there's the so how do you recognize the parts in there? And I think there for me is the AI in action is going to be the parts identifier, the for the technician. The other thing I think is interesting is one of my customers, 80% of calls come in their call center are actually from their technicians.
Wow.
And another one of my customers I'm talking to, they average 27 million calls a year from their own phone numbers. And you can guarantee those phone calls are not high-value phone calls. Anytime you make 27 million, I think they're not high value anyway.
Right.
So actually, the virtual agent being deployed towards a technician is the second place I would say is value add, because anytime you can reduce the support cost. I mean, what's it cost to answer a phone call? $30?
Right.
So 30 times 27 million.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of money. And so I, from a field service perspective, those are two areas I'm super excited about, because it democratizes. Have you ever seen a service guide a company's written for their team members? I mean, they're 900 pages of very nice technical detail that nobody actually reads.
Right.
To be able to have the bot kind of go out and read the guide and say, "Oh no, this is the video of how to fix it." That's huge.
And you could use. Could you use through Power Automate? Could you use the AI builder to read the doc, or?
Well, so in the case of the doc, I would actually put it as the knowledge base article and have virtual agent read that. Break it up according to product,
keywords and such.
Keywords and stuff.
Okay.
On the image recognition is more on the what the heck is this thing I'm looking at?
Yeah.
Because I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
But on the other side is more on the knowledge base article side.
Yeah, the thing about virtual agent, because we talked about that as a group last week, and the outside of reading a knowledge base article, if it was looking for like install instructions or things like that, the at what point is the development of the topic and that tree too prohibitive to be effective from all the different permutations that you'd have to really invoke for a customer? No?
Do me again. I'm slow.
That's okay.
I don't know what you're talking about, Shawn.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So when you create the topic, let's say you have 500 different products that you could be talking about for a technician, right? At what point do you reach a law of diminishing returns in how many trees and branches you'd have to have for that topic for it to work?
Well, I think it's true. I mean, Pareto's law is Pareto's law. 80-20 is you can shake it as many ways as you want, but it's going to be there regardless. I would look at things like customer service insights. I'm going to build a product, by the way, called Insights on Insights. It's going to be insights to insight products we build.
Insight squared.
Insights, perfect.
Sorry.
Great.
Trademark.
I've got
Joel
a logo
Lindstrom.
for it.
I too.
I think on the customer service insight, we didn't figure out what the tickets coming in are. Your first thing should be is how many tickets are coming in from our internal teams, and what are the number one reasons they're calling. Take those top 10 items, and then take the next top 10 items. Then take the next. I mean, so I don't think.
Well, doesn't knowledge base already give you here's what people are searching for?
Yeah, I mean, you've got the idea of how many views you're getting, both internal and external.
But
as well as how many times
I thought
you're
it also
using them.
shows you things people are searching for that they're not finding something. Is that a thing? Maybe that's just a thing in my brain.
I don't think that's a thing.
Oh, it should be a thing.
I don't know. It's a nice to have, though.
Well,
that was a Parature thing, by the way.
So that's what I'm thinking
had
about.
Parature had that thing.
Okay. So it's not a thing anymore.
No, that does sound familiar, Joel. I'm sorry. That does sound familiar. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway.
Useless information in the back of my head.
but they still have things like, cases they call, technicians they'll call them open up cases. So the technicians aren't usually doing the searching.
Right.
And so it's a pretty easy thing to look at.
Right. And like I said, it's really, really easy to embed that virtual agent into a work order or into the field service mobile client, to where the technician could start talking to the bot, immediately if they needed to.
Right.
It gets a little dicey in terms of if you have like requirements to pull that chat history into the activity pane, but I mean it can be done.
So I was I was seeing there was a blog post on Friday, I think it was, about some of the new omni-channel preview things, and one of the things there was a Facebook Messenger integration.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think that's exactly tied to. I think that's a outcome of the chat client more than the virtual agent.
Right.
Do we know if there's going to be like a Facebook bot or other types of places the virtual agent can be?
If you take the picture that is on the channels of the new channels added frequently to the Power Virtual Agents preview page under deploy, the select channel picture has Microsoft Teams, and then right below that Facebook.
Okay.
So
wouldn't though, like you talked about deploying it internally, so you can put in Teams and have people interact with Teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're going to have a. Right now, it's kind of you're kind of doing a workaround to get it into a team channel. They're going to have a literal kind of connection,
right,
to put it into a team channel.
In some ways, that makes more sense to me than having it being inside. Well, I think having it inside Dynamics would be good as well, but people are used to that use Teams are used to going to Teams and interacting with the bots there, so it kind of makes sense to me, especially I think, and I'm seeing actual customers who their preferred method of using Dynamics is inside of Teams with the Teams integration.
Well, and I think it depends on depends on the vertical, and it depends on what the users are trying to do.
The people that I'm talking about are like, if you're a sales guy that has not a million accounts that you go deep into,
right?
You can have your views and they're cheering for my idea.
It's
they like that one.
It's resounding. It's crazy.
Anyway, that's a rabbit trail, but yeah. So what else? So on the service, since this is kind of a service themed episode, the thing that came to my mind when I saw the Power Automate, and just to mention, later this week we're going to have John Levesque and Steven Siciliano from the Power Automate team here, and so they can tell us what's really going on. But thing that came to mind when I saw and what we've seen before about the RPS or RPA, the robot, is basically a macro recorder, for lack of better words, where you can feed variables into it. It made me think of what we've had with Unified Service Desk, and Unified Service Desk is still used by a number of customers for things like process integrations between Win32 and even green screen applications, and say incoming phone calls or Dynamics. So that's where it made me think of, could that be used to modernize that experience? If I'm using Omnichannel Engagement Hub and I need to have like a process that at a certain point calls a legacy order management system or a parts ordering system or something and scrapes information from Dynamics into that, it would seem to me that that could fill that role.
Well, I mean, it's not only that, but with Canvas apps and the ability to display information, or if you're using virtual entities, there's a number of different ways to surface and present data and interact with data that we just didn't have when USD came out. When USD came out, it was crazy innovative for call centers. Now our technology is surpassing it a little bit in terms of a on-device client, installable client. So,
and I would say there's a couple things you look at. So there's RPA, which robotic process automation. There's a couple of companies here in the building that do that, and that's one way of doing things, which is not necessarily tailored to a customer service experience.
Right.
And you've got BPM, which is more the business process monitoring tools, which is again they kind of look and act and smell a little bit alike, but they're different. USD for me is one of those class of one things. I mean, it's something that it's got a little bit of BPA, and it's got a little bit of RPA, and it's got a little bit of customer CRM in it, but it's kind of a combination of everything. So I think the difference really is going to be getting the right tool for the right job.
Right.
Which goes back to specialization. If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so I think we really just need to make sure that whether it be USD or Omnichannel or RPA or BPM, we just make sure we're using the right tool for the right job.
Okay.
Can't argue with that.
I just wanted to use a few more acronyms. But you know, and to speak to the machine learning side, there is more and more machine learning throughout the ecosystem in the last 12 months than ever. With some of the stuff we saw that I can't even imagine how to work it, with Azure Arc and Azure Synapse, things of that nature. I mean, the back ends are becoming more and more knowledgeable. I guess you'd say they're smarter. They're not just dumb storage areas.
Yeah.
Or dumb processor areas. So that having that as your infrastructure on top, underneath what's already significant with the Power Platform, and then Azure, it's just
and easily scalable. And
yeah, it's just crazy.
Have you ever used Azure Stream Analytics? Sorry, trying to break the acronym habit there.
You're doing a great job, by the
way. Azure Stream Analytics has a tool called anomaly detection. Have you played with that before?
No.
It's actually amazing because it's basically machine learning for chumps like me. I can say when the temperature in this room goes above 20% of its normal temperature, raise an anomaly. So I don't have to build a machine learning model and take a bunch of time building an ML model. I can literally just say dip spike and call that service from ASA, and ASA has that stuff built into it. So I think one of the machine learning things you should look at really is, Stream Analytics has some of that stuff built into it already. It makes it amazing because as a dumb sales guy, I can write a Stream Analytics job that calls machine learning automatically.
It's just, I can't get my head around it. It's
So-
just awesome.
One question, Ben. I know that on-premise is dead to you, right? So here's a question: with Microsoft's continued investment in hybrid scenarios with Azure Edge computing and things like that, why don't we see a scenario where Dynamics data can be stored in your data center, but leverage the Azure Edge scenarios to be able to leverage cloud services?
So I think a couple things. You're talking about products that were just recently announced.
Well, no, Microsoft's been doing this. Microsoft's
Yes,
been
Ben,
doing this
we want
longer
answers
than
now.
today.
Yeah,
I'm saying, do you see that a day in your crystal ball?
So there, in my experience, there's only a couple of reasons why customers want data on-premise. For example, there's a couple of companies I work for are parts of Department of Defense that make track like barrack location. Yeah, it probably makes sense not to put that anywhere. I think barrack location, unless you're wearing a Fitbit.
You gotta use it in a coal mine, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah, that might, NORAD. I mean, people like that data should probably sit not in a cloud for some very, very valid reasons.
Right.
The thing is, people just flat out steal from us. I mean, you think about it. How many licenses,
Yeah.
I'm putting
This
Mr. Tabor here.
turned dark quickly.
No,
Whoa.
People steal from us.
well, no, I mean, but how many people do you know that buy 5 users of Dynamics and deploy 25,000?
I never worked for a company that did that.
No. but there's a,
On our next episode
Yeah.
about your service.
how to survive a SAM audit 101. No, but there's the reasons why you would go on-prem to me are two categories. It's because your data is so secure, so weird. So there's a regulatory reason why your data has to sit there, or you want to steal from me. There's and when I break it down, when I sit in front of a customer and I talk to them, those are the only two reasons that ever kind of surface. So I think some of the things like Edge and Azure, when the what they call the Azure, what's that Azure thing called? The Azure Stack used to be called. Where you'd be able to deploy an Azure instance. I think when that comes a reality and we have more broader adoption of that, I think then you'll see things like Dynamics being able to be run on that stack and use the same stack as what we have online. I think.
The thing today that was announced?
It's
Wasn't that Azure Arc?
It's been a thing. Well, no, before Azure Arc, they had the hybrid scenarios where you basically had Edge devices in your data center, but they're connected to Azure,
Right. Okay.
and you can monitor them with Azure and use Azure services with them.
And so I think that is, when that becomes available, I think that becomes a very cool way of being able to say, okay, here's our on-premise product that we've deployed on the edge, and that works really well. And that's going to solve, I think, one of those two problems. I think the other problem...
This solves the stealing from your part.
Well, no, it solves the data residency problem, because the data residency is going to be resident on that device. The stealing part is going to, that's...
But I mean, with the Azure monitoring, you would be able to have better control over who's using what.
People are going to do what people are going to do. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that, look, if you look at it from the perspective of, it solves one of those two problems very, very nicely, which is running on the edge allows me to be able to have that data reside locally while being able to be used there.
So listen, people, stop stealing from Ben Vollmer.
That's right. And we're talking to his family, too.
I mean, it takes a lot to keep his physique
That's
up,
right.
man.
That's right. That's right. So what if you could have, and I'm not asking you to tell me secrets, but if you could have one bit of AI, what would be the one thing AI-wise that would make field service particular light years better?
Well, so I think there's sorry.
That's all right.
Note to Joel, I knocked the mic really good.
Noted.
I would actually say there's actually a couple of things here. From a machine learning perspective, so if I separate ML from AI, ML, what incidents have I fixed that are like other incidents? How that person fixed an incident last time they were out there? I think that's a huge tech-to-tech learning. I mean, how often do you guys have Teams discussions or email discussions inside of Hitachi or inside of Arctic where you're having conversations that, hey, how'd you fix this last time you were out there? And somebody tells you, here's the 14 steps I did. How about being able to track with ML, being able to say, hey, next time you're out on job, this repair looks like that repair. You should do it in this way. On the AI side, I would actually say it's more a matter of the technician to back to home office interface is my magic wand. And then from a solving problem, so a math problem, the optimization matrix we have in RSO, there's lots of things we can do there that are going to enhance that. And I think that's another kind of bucket list item for me is the enhancement. Again, but you look at them, we might lump them all as AI, but they're actually a math problem, an ML problem, and an AI problem.
Right.
And I would say outside of field service, when you look at the sales functionality, not the sales AI and some of the things they've done with predictive scoring and things like that, but the core functionality around the lead to sales process, it's still basically the same process it was in 2005 or whatever, where there's a lot of things around quoting, CPQ, a lot of things around, and general discoverability of data. We're still searching. You're searching. You're searching. You're looking for specific records. I think there's a lot more that can be done with usability of the system with AI and predicting what your next step should be and that sort of thing. That could apply to all the areas too.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's kind of going along with what Ben said with customer service, having that ability. Just internally. I don't know how many emails I have to go dig through because I sent an email to a customer 3 years ago on how to fix something that they're experiencing again because they only do it once in a while. But I think we saw, not necessarily it's a dynamics feature that we saw or Power Platform feature that was being released, but I think it was during the Bing and Edge announcement and being able to search internal. Looking at conversations that you had, and there's an acronym because we don't remember what acronyms are. Or we don't tell people what those acronyms represent in podcast, but we pick it up in an email and we say, here we have a link to this, and we can pop up and show you this information. I think we're going to get there with other tools. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's on the Power Platform that we'll be able to utilize to help expand that knowledge and make people more aware of what's out there.
Yeah.
So, question for you, Mr. Vollmer, as well, with the enhancements that have come from using AR on your phone and things, and these other things, do any of these come together with Field Service Mobile? Because what I've seen is a lot of those are separate apps you would run. So, do you see any of that coming in or being launched from within Field Service Mobile, or those stay separate apps?
So yes is the answer.
Okay.
Was there two questions there? No.
It was a multifaceted question, Mr. Vollmer.
So I look at where engineering is going. I look where pricing is going.
Okay.
So, love it or hate it, the October 1 pricing has this base license and attach motion. Okay. One of the things we just did effective November 1st, we have a attach SKU for remote assist.
Mm-hmm.
So remote assist is now a $20 add-on SKU to any field service SKU.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have field service, remote assist is a $20 SKU. Kind of reduces the friction of saying, hey, try this thing out, it's going to help you.
Right.
You don't actually know or not. So RA is a kind of a there. I don't think RA is ever going to merge with field service mobile. The field service mobile is never going to merge with RA. They're two very separate components that stand alone, as well as work very, very closely together.
Okay.
And I think there's huge value in both of them working together as a platform.
Okay. Makes sense.
Would you see more? Would you see more Teams integration with field service mobile?
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. One of our sessions this week is actually on field service integrated into the broader stack. Mm-hmm. And Marcio DeCat, one of my black belts here in America, he's actually going to take the Teams sales integration, if you will. We have customers using it for field service where they actually list an asset or a location with all their assets in each channel. Mm-hmm. And then as they close up work orders, they actually get assigned to it, so you can actually see the whole history and all the pictures and stuff and conversations in a Teams channel from a field service perspective.
That's very cool.
Wow.
One of my favorite ones I'm playing with right now, I haven't gotten anywhere, is gamification. It's a gamifying text. So they complete the work orders on time. How many work orders they do? I mean, it's actually, there's a lot of things that other parts of the Dynamics apps offer we can pull over into field service quite easily.
Mm-hmm. Nice. When is that session?
Great question. I'm glad you asked.
Check your schedule.
End of story.
Yeah.
Check the Ignite app.
Yes, I'll check my Ignite app and make sure I attend that. So I think we're just about at time, Mr. Lindstrom.
Yes.
And we barely scratched the surface, I feel like. We could probably talk another hour. Well, I mean, we always can talk another hour.
Yeah.
Not that
we
it's
could, but we're gonna get
it would be
kicked out
beneficial or
eventually.
meaningful, but we could. I think this conversation will continue, and we'll see even more and more innovations next year when we're at Ignite, and we'll see where we're at.
Yeah, and I think just to wrap it up, the best thing I think people can do is to learn some of this stuff. Customer Insights is a great place to start. You can get a trial. Mm-hmm. You can get sample data to play with.
Don't be afraid of the previews.
I'm not afraid of the previews.
I know you're not.
Okay.
I'm just saying
to our
don't be
general
afraid
audience.
to our
don't
general
be afraid
audience.
of the previews.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying from an accessibility perspective, not accessibility for disabilities, but
got it.
able to easily access it and start doing stuff. The Customer Insights preview is a good place to start. As are some of these other tools. They're all good. They're all good to try, but just trying that and seeing how that would fit and kind of visualizing how to go beyond where you are today. I would say.
And same example with Power Virtual Agent. There's about 35 topics pre-built into it. You don't have to bundle it with Customer Service Insights, but if you wanted to, that's a really cool experience as well.
You can also get a trial of that too.
You can get a trial of that, and it's fully functioning. There's nothing missing on it. You can deploy it to a site. You can see how it works. It's the way. I think what we're seeing now is when you do a preview or a trial, you are literally seeing what the product is like. Unlike before, historical, you would use demo data and maybe it was like what it would be like and maybe it wasn't. But now, I mean, it is that easy to deploy and put out there that you're really seeing what's out there.
Yeah.
Ms. Sarah, what are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are so much information out there. As Ben mentions, it's hard to be a generalist. You got to be a specialist now. And I'm here at Ignite working on the Microsoft Learn team and helping educate people on certification exams and so forth. But just general topics of how do I learn about the Power Platform? Mm-hmm. We hear about all these wonderful things. Satya mentioning things. Charles demonstrating during the keynote. James, and of course our conversation that we're having here. There's a lot of topics you guys talked about that I don't know as much. So docs.microsoft.com/learn is the best place for you to go. There's learning paths if you want to go the certification route. But more importantly, great, I got a trial to something, which we say don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to try a preview. There's more than likely going to be some documentation out there that you can find to use as a great resource to help you get prepared and understand this and determine, is this going to be the right tool for the job, as Ben has mentioned.
Any parting notes from you, Mr. Vollmer?
I think if you're a Dynamics 365 consultant, now is the time to start looking at specialization. I think, again, I'm going to harp on this till the day, till I took purple. You're not going to get to the next stage in your career by being a generalist. You're not going to be being all, one of my good friends says the saying, I'd rather be something to someone than nothing to everyone. And so you've got to kind of specialize. You've got to figure out what you want to be when you grow up and start figuring out what your major and minor is. My major is field service. My minor is customer service. I can barely spell it, but you put me on an SFA demo and I look at Salesforce automation, I'm like, I used to do this really well, but I don't do it all today, and it helps.
Right. I agree completely. And I think with that, we are at our time here at Ignite for the service-based version of CRM Audio. As Joel mentioned, we'll be back a little later.
We got 2 more episodes this week.
That's right. And you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, thanks for listening. Don't forget to go to aka.ms podcast sweepstakes to get your chance to win your Surface headphones.
That's right, and that link will be in our show notes. So on behalf of everybody here at Ignite,
bye.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.